Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet. About to be joined by Ken Weeb from the Winnipeg Free Press, he's on vacation again, folks. So just keep that in mind when it's time for his analysis, that he's in vacation mode. So just forgive him and move on. We'll figure this out. Renny's got you covered. This is the Kenny and Renny post-game show after, in my estimation. And you know what? It all depends on where you get your estimations from. But in my estimation, Rennie's got a pretty high estimation going on. You know what I'm saying? In my estimation, that was the Jets' best game of the year. I take a look around and I'm looking at other performances, and to be quite honest, one of the other best performances by the Winnipeg Jets so far this year was the first game that they played against the Dallas Stars. But what is there outside of giving up the shutout? What more could you have wanted from that game? And I know we're gonna have Bick Ronis in here, maybe, because he seems to be at times one of the sucky boo-boos, right? Who disappears when things don't necessarily fit the narrative. But let's give Bick Ronis credit. He's here for a lot of shows, and he's like talking in the teeth of the lion that the Winnipeg Jets are this year about all the different reasons. But he's gonna say they were once again outshot and lost the face-off battle and all the different kind of things that he will say. And he will say that the Stars were missing 3 key players. And all those things are true, right? If you want to go and if you want to look to nitpick and do those kind of things, you'd be able to do that. But let's be honest with ourselves. What we saw was the Winnipeg Jets, from the drop of the puck, just absolutely hit a gear that I don't think in that game the Dallas Stars were able to follow. And they followed that pace through the first period and through the second period, got into the third period, still put a goal up on the board in the third period, even though there was a push by the Dallas Stars for a significant amount of time. And yes, they did generate shots. But if you take a look at this, a lot of times when you've got 2 really good teams going at it, and you want to know why the Jets had 3 goals after 10 shots, it's in the moments that mattered most. They were just better, right? Like their top line was just executing better when they had their opportunities. Even that goal that they score in the third period, the 4th goal of the game, you saw how often the Dallas Stars tried to generate offense from the point in this game. And you just saw how often Connor Hellebuck knew where the puck was, right? Saw through the crowd. Now that's on one hand, that's Connor Hellebuck, who, by the way, is the winner of the Sean Reynolds Stat Award tonight. If there was any confusion about that, there wasn't with the folks in the Canada Life Center who were chanting at Jake Ottinger, Helly's backup, which was, they're back, baby. They're back. But give credit to the Winnipeg Jets as a team playing in front of him, clearing a lane so that he can see where that puck is coming from. He did a great job of searching through the trees for that puck today. Jake Ottinger, I saw a number of times in that game. There was one point the shot came and it ended up bouncing and going up in the air and landing behind the net. And he had no idea where the puck was. He had no idea the puck had even gone through and had gotten in behind him. Why? Because the Winnipeg Jets just executed better at creating the confusion in front of the net, at being able to get into those shooting lanes where Morgan Barron tipped the puck. A lot of people thought it was Brandon Tanev because he was right there, Johnny on the spot, to do the same thing. There just wasn't that execution on the part of the Dallas Stars. A lot of their passes, the Jets either broke them up, or if they did get onto the stick, they weren't quite on the stick, so it chipped off the stick, whereas the Winnipeg Jets were sharp. They were, and something that was said by Scott Arniel in the post-game presser of this game, just about the idea that this was one of those games where great defense turned into offense. I couldn't agree with it more. I think that setup by Josh Morrissey to Kyle Connor for the 3rd goal of the game is the perfect example of that, of the Jets just busting their butts to be good defensively, to break things up. But when they do break it up, if you're leading a 3-on-2 and you're the Dallas Stars and you try and pass it all the way cross ice and a Winnipeg Jet player comes up and gets their stick in that passing lane, gets the puck, and immediately turns it up ice, you've got 3 guys trapped down low, all headed in the wrong direction. That's how you create separation, ladies and gentlemen. And then you take the puck back up ice. It's an odd man rush. The Jets were able to confuse the Dallas Stars with their puck movement. That's why Dylan Samberg is so wide open on his first goal. They were able to jump up and go to the spots where other players weren't. That's what you saw on the third goal. They were able to just execute and find the soft spots in the crammed up ice. That's what happens on the second goal, where Kyle Connor gets a shot off. That puck is nowhere in a danger zone. Mark Scheifele has it on the sideboards in the corner, not the sideboards, kind of where the boards curl to the backboards from the sideboards, and passes it. And if you take a look at the replay of that, there is, coaches call it 5 on the die. Think of a dice with 5 on it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The Dallas Stars are 5 on the die, but Kyle Connor finds that weak spot and boom, it's in the back of the net. This was just a higher rate of execution, a higher rate of details, a higher rate of effort. There, in my mind, was no place in the game tonight. The Winnipeg Jets didn't show they were better than the Dallas Stars. And we're talking about the third best team in the NHL right now in the Dallas Stars, a team that a lot of people were talking about and were worried about. I wasn't. You can check my comments on CJOB before the game. I had said the Winnipeg Jets were going to win the Western Conference. The numbers tell us that's what was going to happen. But this is a team that should have challenged the Winnipeg Jets, and I don't see a spot in that game outside of, maybe shots and this and that, whatever. I don't see a spot in this game where the Dallas Stars outshone the Winnipeg Jets. This was a big tilt. Teams showed up here to be ready, and the Winnipeg Jets showed out on this night. That's my take on the whole thing. Time to bring the man with the best music for his take on everything. Here comes Kenny, folks. Ken, we all know what the Sean Reynolds stat is, the Sean Reynolds award. It's pretty simple. Who was the better goaltender in that game? If you keep letting me outclass you in the dress area, then we're going to have to rename that the Sean Reynolds Award, which is going to evolve into the best dressed award. Now, you're looking good. You look like you've been golfing. But you know what? It wouldn't hurt you to put on a suit every once in a while. Ken, I know you got the car back there and you're showing off the car. But listen, Frankie and the boys have me in a position to win the new Sean Reynolds Award tonight because I've got this green ensemble that Krevy, our main man, Chris Kreviazuk, who does sets up the hotels and stuff like that for the Winnipeg Jets. Great guy. Came to me today after the game and was like, what's with the green? The Dallas Stars are in town and you're wearing that? And I was like, well, hey, did they win? Like, do you want me to wear this to every Stars game going forward? He said, I just want you to wear it because you look like $1 million. And he's right, because I do in this green ensemble with St. Paddy's Day just around the corner, which is why I was wearing that. Look like $1 million. So if you want to look like $1 million, even if some people think you're wearing the wrong team's colors, you know what to do. Head on down to Corden Avenue. Walk in, loudly proclaim that Kenny and Renny sent you at Vittorio Rossi. Ask for Frankie and the boys, and they will leave you looking like $1 million. Ken, what a game. What'd you see?
Yeah, buddy, you better enjoy it because, as you know, and I told you before I left for Arizona that I did go see Frankie and the boys at Vittorio Rossi, and I will be looking like $1 million on March 25th when the Washington Capitals are in town.
You better. I'm setting the bar high.
4 suits, four shirts ready to roll, buddy. So we'll be getting back on track here.
Hey, what's that? The guy who used to wear the wigs or whatever on TV is just like, I'm not just a whatever. I'm not just the owner. I'm a client kind of thing. There
That's
you go.
correct. Yes, that's correct.
Ken's not just on here. They're not just advertisers. Ken's a customer as well, folks. As am I. That's the whole point of it. Anyways, go on,
exactly, Ken. Exactly. Well, I mean, just impressive showing by the Jets on a lot of fronts, and I understand some people were a little riled up after 2 periods. Oh, Jets only have 10 shots. I mean, Sean, you were in the building. That was not a 10-shot effort. I mean, the Jets were not under siege at any point in that game. They handled themselves incredibly well. They were very composed, especially while shorthanded. I thought that their top line was absolutely exceptional. And as you mentioned in the open, I mean, a lot of the Jets' offense came from defending first, which if you want to beat the Dallas Stars, Sean, that is how you need to play. This is a team that won 8 of its previous 10 outings coming into the contest, and they were the second best team by a considerable margin. I mean, I understand here, yes, the way the game went, score effects, whatever else, but I mean, high danger chances, 9-8 Jets. They won the expected goals battle, which again, we don't put an overabundance of stock into, but I thought the Jets were full value in this game. I mean, we understand, and hey, Kyle Connor didn't want to get too riled up about game 67, and that's okay. Because Kyle Connor also knows the Jets are going to be playing the Dallas Stars, and I think it's game 78 or 79, whichever the number is. What the Jets did today, Sean, was take care of business, right? That's what they did. You're either 6 back with the other team having 2 games in hand, or the Stars are 10 back with 2 games in hand. So I thought the Jets were full value on a lot of fronts. I thought the Lowry line kind of set the tone early. I think they really did an exceptional job against the top line of Wyatt Johnston and Rantanen. And Jamie Benn. I really thought that they kept them under control, and exceptional effort by the top line. Sean, we've been talking about the top line all year. Yes, we get it. Their analytics weren't great the last couple games. Maybe they were on for a couple of goals against at 5-on-5, but this was another example, Sean. This is much like we talked about with Cole Perfetti. This isn't the top line beating up on the San Jose Sharks. This is the top line being involved in 3 goals against the biggest contender in their division. This is Mark Scheifele, as you said, Sean, going from a non-dangerous scoring area to finding the trailer, Dylan Samberg, for the lamplighter of the game, the one that lit the lamp and got them going in a 4-1 victory. So
are you handing the award out already? Did you just trigger it?
I think so. Yeah, let's go.
You triggered it.
Wake up call. I mean,
all
right. I'm sorry. I mean, it's
that's okay. Let's do it. That's TCB lamplighter of the game.
Oh, sorry, lamplighter. No, sorry. It's lighting of the lamp, not the actual lamplighter. Sorry.
Oh, I think you triggered it. Let's just do it. So that's Ken's lamplighter of the game.
Man, you're putting a lot of words in my mouth. I've been.
You said the lamplighter.
I've been on the show for 4 minutes here.
All right. Hey, I was like, listen.
I was going pristine wake up call for people who wanted to break up the top line again.
You know what? I warned the folks before you got on the show that you were on vacation, so to expect a vacation performance. And I'm glad that you're delivering exactly that.
Oh yeah.
Hey, you triggered the lamplighter. I'm going to go with the Kyle Connor goal, number 2,
which is exactly what I was going with.
Yeah, Mark. Well, no, you said you gave the lamplighter to the trailer to Dylan Samberg is what you gave. I just think that in a game like that, where it's like, space on the ice is at a premium, the way that Gabe Vilardi and Mark Scheifele played the boards there, and what Mark Scheifele did was kind of let the guy push him into the boards, knowing that he had the stick free, right? And just as he falls into the boards, finds the guy, and boom, it's in the back of the net. That's the kind of plays that you have to make with a guy all over you, with your defense, the defenders that you're playing against, locking up the entire area. You just got to find those tight little areas, a la Braden Point. He always used to do it in the playoffs for Tampa. That's the kind of goal that you can repeat over and over again in the playoffs. They come out of nowhere, right? That's what they did. For me, that's my lamplighter of the game. But it doesn't matter what I think. Matters what you think. Share with us your hashtag Lamplighter of the game, TCB Lamplighter of the game, you're automatically entered to win a Frosty Delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. If you can't wait for Kenny and Renny to gift you your own 8-pack of Lamplighter, you can head on down to 11290 Keniston, join them in their tap room and get, a couple 8-packs of your own. Doesn't have to be Lampies. Can be. They're delicious. They're the nectar of the gods. You could get the blueberry. You could get the cold IPA. There's so much you can get. And you can also do yourself a favor and get yourself a good pizza and hang out there a while, because it's just an absolutely great place. And that brings us to our winner of the TCB Lamplighter from our last show. That would be Jeff Bowes. Jeff Bowes, Bowes. You know what to do. Direct message me. Send me an email at SNSeanReynolds, or send me your email. Give me your full name, and I will send you a voucher for a Frosty Delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TCB. I assure you, it is the nectar of the gods. Ken, do you want to pick up on your analysis, or do you want to start hitting topics? I mean, it's your vacation. However you want to do that.
Yeah. No, you're the host. I mean, I defer to you. I mean, that's my
Okay.
job.
I want to launch
400,000 people in the chat room. We got to give them what they want.
Give them what they want. Okay. All right. So let's move on, and I want to get into Luke Schenn again, because off the bat, he starts off his first game, plays on the third pairing, finds himself jumping up onto the second pairing, finds himself playing a little bit with Josh Morrissey. This is a player that, boy, like, we've seen him play in a lot of different places, and believe me, I covered him when he was winning a cup in Tampa.
Yeah.
This is a player I'm almost shocked at how good he looks, Ken. I shouldn't be, but seeing him playing in Nashville, where that team just did not have that, and then seeing the razor sharp Jets and seeing him just fit in with it and elevate along with everybody else, and to do it instantaneously. Talk about a fit that this player has been for the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, there's a lot of fairly cold takes coming out of last Friday, Sean, as it pertains to Luke Schenn and Brandon Tanev, I believe. And hey, and I get it, that part of that was due to the 2C opening. Fine. Luke Schenn is exactly what the Jets were missing on the back end. That's, with all due respect to the Jets defense core, that, yes, we get it. They were a big part of the reason the Jets were one of the lowest scored against teams in the NHL. But they don't have a net front presence like Luke Schenn, or they didn't until he got here. He has provided 12 hits, Sean, 12 hits in 2 games, 12. I don't think I need to repeat myself a third time, but this is an element the Jets needed to have more of if they want to win multiple rounds and be a legitimate Stanley Cup contender. Luke Schenn keeps his game incredibly simple. He's more efficient as a puck mover than people give him credit for, and that is something that he had to work incredibly hard of to get himself back in the NHL after being demoted, after playing 10 seasons in the NHL. This is very rare, Sean, that a guy was the 5th overall pick, goes straight to the NHL, then has to go to the AHL and reinvent himself after 10 seasons in the National Hockey League. Schenn is doing a great job. I know Scott Arniel said it was more up to Dean Chenault than what he saw in the third period. I think it had more to do with where the game was at, score, and everything else. But what we know is the Jets wanted to get a look at Luke Schenn with Josh Morrissey. That doesn't mean they want to switch the pairings on the spot. It means that if you have to go to that spot, you want to know that you are comfortable in it. I also like the way that Schenn looked on a pairing with Dylan Samberg. I love the job that he is doing on the penalty kill. This guy is a shot blocking machine. He is a physical force. And, if I love the quote that Scott Arniel has now used twice. If you're out against Luke Schenn, he didn't use the word scenic, but he said you're taking the long way around. What that means is players are taking the scenic route because they're not exactly, excited to get engaged in a physical confrontation with Luke Schenn. And, quite frankly, the Jets haven't had that on their blue line. Brendan Dillon made people think twice, but they haven't had it to this degree for, some people are saying since Dustin Byfuglien. Now, the Jets had a lot of guys who were hard to play against, Sherratt, Trouba, all those guys. I get it. But Luke Schenn is providing an element that the Jets needed, and, he is providing right now. Alex99, the Jets don't need to extend Luke Schenn. He has one more year left on his deal. They'll see where things go from there.
Um, okay, if you're wrapped, I wanted to get into this topic right away because I think this topic deserves a lot of
Well, you got to
time.
share a little more on Schenn too. I know I took most of the scrap. I know I only left you a couple of table
Okay,
scraps, but I mean,
well,
you.
I'll say this. I love throwback hockey. Everybody knows that. And I think there's a lot of people who got into the mindset. And I think that a lot of the players in the game tonight, and a good example of that, not in the game tonight, but in the game today, was Nikolai Ehlers apologizing today, if you heard, for that
I
slash
did hear,
on
yeah.
JT Miller. I don't know if the folks out there heard that as well. You remember that play? We didn't talk about it on the show, and I had really wanted to because this is what my thoughts on that play. I loved it. I loved that he did that. And when it happens on the ice, in those moments when a guy sticks you and he sticks you in a spot where it hurts and it's a cheap shot, you're not thinking, okay, what's my response going to be? I'm going to pen my response. You, sir, are a coward and a cad. You know what I mean? You are turning around and you're doing something before your body even knows you do it. But what I liked about that is when JT Miller takes out a hammer and whacks Nikolai Ehlers with it, Nikolai Ehlers turns around and smokes him with a sledgehammer. And I think what that typically says when you play that style of hockey is like, listen, you want to do this? Let's do it. You want to be a cheap shot artist? Then I'm going to make you hurt more than you make me hurt. That's what's going to happen here. And it's just like any kind of schoolyard bully. Bullies don't like to take pain. They like to hand it out, but when you give it to them, they usually shrink. And what happened in that situation when JT Miller hit him, got hit? JT Miller cowered after that happened, right? And listen, I get the intimidation factor of the game. We've talked about it before. If JT Miller stands up and kind of goes back at him, I think I feel a little bit better about JT Miller. I just see him as the guy who tried to stick a guy and then can't stand behind the move that he made. But Nick Ehlers, that's my take on it. I don't know if you want to share yours on it afterwards, but Nick Ehlers apologized for that, said it was a little bit too much. And I think that that's where we're at with the new game. There was no one in the 90s or the 2000s or the 80s or the 70s who was apologizing for doing that. That guy got what he deserved, would have been the attitude. So that's a little expression of how the game has changed. But I don't necessarily think the game has changed for better. And I don't necessarily think that attitude gets you any further down the road. Luke Schenn is a throwback because what he does is every time you come within his orbit with the puck, he doesn't just want to separate you and the puck like most defensemen in the game now. He wants to punish you for it. He wants to punish you for daring, for having the audacity to come into my orbit with that puck. So you're talking about it, 12 hits in 2 games. What was that? 12 hits in 2 games? I'm going to say it where I'm going to take it where you wouldn't take it, Ken. 12 hits in 2 games. He went out and to your point, the scenic route is being taken with this guy because guys don't want to get anywhere near him because he's going to punish them. And I'll tell you right now, that is an element that is going to come in extremely handy in the playoffs for the Winnipeg Jets, to have a guy that guys hate to play against to the point that they may actually take a step away from doing the right thing or take a little bit of a wide berth rather than going directly to the net because they're afraid or they don't want to pay the price to go there. Having Schenn is absolutely huge in the mindset that he's shown already, Ken, of going after the opposition without taking himself out of the play, Ken, is the perfect element to add to this Winnipeg Jets team on the blue line.
Yeah, no doubt. And the guy loves hockey, Sean, right? What have we noticed about Luke Schenn? Like, I understand he's only been here for a few days, but all you do is see in the morning skate, all you do is see him with a smile on his face. During the game, just nothing but hardcore, intensity level. And the guy enjoys laying a beating on the opposition, and he likes throwing big hits. But as you mentioned, he doesn't fly across the ice and go out of position to make the hits and finish the plays. And I love his ability to kill plays quickly. That's something I spoke with Hayden Fleury about the other day, and that allowed him to get involved, with his feet, to a degree that we hadn't really seen since he came back from injuries. So, hey, I also like the way the pairings looked. I know, and Schenn is a big part of that. It's another. I mean, what did you were there? Dylan Samberg called him the Bruise Brothers, right? Is that what he said in the morning
Block
after the
Brothers.
skate?
He said
What?
better the Block Brothers because it's so
Okay.
hard to get shots through on them. Yeah.
Well, there you go. And I mean, that's also too. Let's just transition. I mean, um, Dylan Samberg, Sean. uh, we've been talking about him all year long. I understand that some folks are, oh, he doesn't get a lot of points. Well, big deal. This is a guy who is incredibly effective, Sean. Like, he's been one of the Jets' best defensemen, not named Josh Morrissey this year. It is obvious to anyone who's paying attention, and he continues to take his game to another level, and it's incredibly impressive. And of course, he missed not having his regular partner Neil Pionk in the lineup beside him, and he'll be week to week here, expected back before the regular season is over. But Dylan Samberg is a guy who's now becoming. This is interesting, Sean. Right? It's similar to when he's becoming a driver on defense in his own way. We talked about the lines beforehand. Guys got to become drivers. Dylan Samberg is becoming an underrated driver to the Jets defense core. And then that's an important thing for the Winnipeg Jets for sure.
Oh man, look at this. Julie Sue got the Pristine Roofing wake-up call. She's alive and ready to go. She says she will fight anyone who talks trash about Sammy. Listen, I feel like this Jets game has given a lot of people the juice. Luke Schenn has come in and he's given people the juice, and Julie Sue for sure has the juice to the point she's got the Pristine Roofing wake-up call, ready to fight anyone who talks trash about Sammy. You know what?
Not a lot of those people out there. Are there? If there are those people that are out there.
Hey, there's even less after Julie Sue just dropped the gloves out there, is what I'll say. But regardless, it's that means it's time to give North End Rick the Pristine Roofing wake-up call at 204-981-6289. He's the guy you want down to your place for any of your roofing, siding, and exterior needs. You can also call Pristine Roofing directly at 204-237-7663. You should give your house the Pristine Roofing call. You will be glad you did. It will look amazing when you are done. Ken, did you want to go talk a little bit more about Samberg before we?
No, I mean,
I'll pick up on the
please
point.
Do. I mean, I just thought he was excellent. I mean, that's
well, and what I liked about this is, and made me think, because we've talked about Dylan Samberg, and Dylan Samberg is like the big shutdown, snuff plays out, block shots, always do the right thing, kind of quiet defensive presence beside Neil Pionk. That's opened up Neil Pionk's game. However, that's what Luke Schenn is as well. And so what I thought was going to happen with that pairing tonight is it was just going to be like an absolute shutdown, snuff things out, like build a brick wall around the entire defensive zone. You just don't get in there. But what I felt I saw was a little bit more activation from him. And it got me thinking, hey, Dylan Samberg knows his role is to allow and open up Neil Pionk to move down ice. But Luke Schenn does the same thing, and it reminded me, Ken, of that conversation that I had with Colton Parayko, which I shared on this show, where he talked about Josh Morrissey, and all of a sudden he just found himself jumping into the play more often, heading up ice more often. Why? Because he knows that Josh Morrissey's going to see him. He's going to get him the puck. He's not going to mess up defensively, and you jumping up into the play is not going to cost you. He's not going to turn it over, and now all of a sudden you're caught down ice kind of thing. Well, it's the same thing with Luke Schenn, and I feel like that's what we saw tonight when Samberg jumped in and activated into the play, but I saw him do it a couple more times tonight, was Luke Schenn brings out the confidence in him to be able to head up ice because he gets to be that guy now. Instead of him being the guy who stays back and allows Neil Pionk to jump up the ice, he got to be that little bit of that role, and now good on him. He didn't mess up the balance. He didn't get caught down ice or anything like that. He still got back to all his spots. But what it did kind of make me think, Ken, especially with having Luke Schenn, especially how they moved Luke Schenn. Sorry, Partisan Paul says Samberg approaching all-star status. He's an elite shutdown defenseman, and with Pionk out, I predict his offensive game will develop. I'm getting sidetracked by this, but I said with all the success that the Team USA had with, remind me, the Carolina defenseman that was
Jacob Slavin.
For some reason I had Clevin in my head, and that was messing me up. Jacob Slavin was great in that tournament as a shutdown role, and I said, well, if they know that works in that tournament, why would the U.S. not be looking at Dylan Samberg a year from now when it comes time for the Olympics? Anyways,
Agreed.
I'm going in the wrong direction here. Luke Schenn also played some time. We didn't talk about it with Josh Morrissey, but now that you've got these, kind of 4 or 5 defensemen out there who can kind of be interchanged, it allows you to see what other good players unlock in other good players. And I just think tonight was a real exercise in Dylan Samberg seeing another part of himself and his capabilities, because he's beside an absolute rock that allows him to take maybe some of the risks that he wouldn't with Neil Pionk. Doesn't mean Neil Pionk's not a good player. Doesn't mean that Luke Schenn is a better player. It just means they have different styles that complement different things, and playing Dylan Samberg with a different style player, I think, unlocked some stuff in him tonight. Okay, Ken, we need to finish it off before.
Just sorry on the defense. Again, look at Colin Miller today, Sean. Also, right? So you just got demoted to the 7th job when you've been in the lineup the majority of the year. You're asked to come back in when a guy gets hurt. It looks like he didn't miss a beat out there. Again, I thought the third pairing was very steady. I liked Miller's game a lot, and that's a testament to him, right? I mean, he came here last year at the deadline to be the 7th guy. When he got a chance, he did the job. Again, today got the chance, did the job, and he'll be asked to do the job, for probably at least a week and probably multiple weeks here, based on what Scott O'Neill told you this morning.
All right. I want to move on to, I think, which is the most important topic, and we need to get into it. So I want to do some things before we get into that. One of the things I'm going to do is because Rennie's in a good mood again. So what he's going to do is he's going to take the red hot take, the take that I think is just absolutely on top of things here. And it's Natalie who says it's the prove it attitude, chip on the shoulder, that gives them a lot of momentum. I think she is nailing what happened with the Winnipeg Jets on this night. The start that you saw, the finish that you saw, the way that they took on a team that a lot of people after the trade deadline were saying, the Winnipeg Jets are in trouble now. Just wait till these guys get to you. Natalie absolutely nails this for the white hot comment on the show today. And of course, that is your KNR hot take, a white hot take, I might say, brought to you by Flame and Comfort, Manitoba's premier supplier of fireplaces, wood stoves, inserts, and everything hearth related. After 50 years heating up your world, Flame and Comfort is soon moving. You will find it will be one of the most impressive showrooms in Western Canada when you get down there. And hey, you don't need your hot takes to keep that warm feeling inside. Visit Flame and Comfort. They'll take care of it for you. Or maybe Natalie will take care of it for you with comments like that. But that brings me to how the Jets...
Go see Dwayne and Company at 318 Logan Avenue.
All right. Can I go? Can I go now?
Well, yeah, you can go. When we're done with the read, you can go. That's right. That's how the show works.
Part of the read. It's not part of the read. Well, yeah, maybe it should be. Maybe you should. I'm not going to do this in front of them. Why? The kids don't like to see mom and dad fight. Okay, Ken? So we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that in front of everybody. Okay, I wanted to get to this. Kyle Connor, after the game, I thought gave a really interesting answer. And we'd asked about him, and Kyle Connor sloughs this off. And I'm not sure. I think he, in his head, wants it to be that. I honestly think where the Jets came from, they used to be a team that would try and play everything down. And if it was a big game, they'd be like, oh, it's just another game and all that kind of stuff. And I honestly don't think it served the Winnipeg Jets over the years. I think what they did is they were afraid to come out and say, this is a big one. We got to have everything tonight. And I think they were afraid to say it because they really didn't know if, when the chips were on the table, if they would have it. And there's a reason for that. We saw it. We saw it in the playoffs last year. We saw it in the playoffs the year before that. We saw that in 2018 when it looked like they were on their way and all of a sudden things fell apart. We've seen it in the playoffs. We saw it after they knocked off the Edmonton Oilers and then had nothing against the Montreal Canadiens. This team really did not know themselves enough to know when they were going to be able to show up or not. And I think that was a symptom of it. I think it was a Paul Maurice era plan where they would basically try and treat everything like, oh, it's no big deal. It's just another game. This is just the same, it's just game 63 on a game 82 schedule and all that kind of stuff. And Ken, you and I talked about this all the time. We'd go cover teams like the Tampa Bay Lightning or the Colorado Avalanche, and they would never be afraid to be like, yeah, this is a big one. We need our juice here tonight. So regardless of that, when I picked a little bit deeper with Kyle Connor, the one thing that he'd said is, I think we've grown, and this is maturity showing for us in the way that we came into this game. We were calm. We knew what was expected from us. We knew what we had to go out and do, and we just went out and did it. And I think personally, people all over the year, and listen, this I'm gonna twist this, and I'm gonna twist a knife a little bit into Jets fans. I've watched over the years with Jets fans, they win games like this, and what do? They turn around and they yell, "We're gonna win the Stanley Cup, baby!" Blah blah, all this kind of stuff. And for me, Ken, you've heard people say this before. It's an act like you've been there moment. And Jets fans, I think for the most part, aren't very good with the act like you've been there moment, because they haven't been there before. So what they do is they take things that aren't the biggest win, that look like a really big win, and they say the Jets are a wagon. No one's stopping this team. We're winning the cup this year, blah, blah, blah. Not realizing that things are different in the playoffs and things change and all those kind of things. But I'll say this year, Ken, in 2018, I've said it before. I thought the Winnipeg Jets were the best hockey team in the world. I thought they should have won the cup that year. Their inexperience caught up to them and bit them on the butt in that year. But I see this. I see the way the Jets prepare. I see the way that when the Jets need a good effort, tell me a time this year the Jets have needed to come out with a good effort and haven't come out with that effort. I'm in a place, Ken, where I believe the Winnipeg Jets have learned the lesson of being able to generate their best effort when it's required. And I think deep down inside, it's because they know it's required. They are confident that when it's required, they can come to it. I think tonight's the perfect example of that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would just say they were a little flat against the Panthers in Florida, but then came back and really answered the bell,
to
right?
respond.
Exactly.
I think they got caught not knowing what they were going to see.
Yeah.
And they were a team that had won, so many games and everything was coming easy. I don't think they'd been punched in the mouth yet, truly.
Agreed.
Then they got punched in the mouth, needed to respond, and to my point, responded.
Yeah, no doubt. I think too, I'm with you. So it's interesting. And I was on with Hustler yesterday on Winnipeg Sports Talk. And again, I wasn't trying to downplay the matchup. Yes, it was the biggest matchup of the year to date. But at the same time, two things can be true. It can be the biggest matchup, but if you win, if you're the Jets, it doesn't mean you clinch the division. It certainly enhances your chances significantly. But had the Jets lost today, you're not canceling the season, right? If the Stars were 6 back with 2 in hand, you're also not going to, say everything you did up to 66 games, great. Now in game 67, you lose and, the sky is falling. So I'm with you. Like, this was more of an act like you've been there before moment from the Jets. And hey, I know one of the moments that bothers you the most. The victory, the Stanley win against the fight with Simmons and the win against the Leafs and how the Jets lost. What did they lose? 5 in a row after that point? I mean, that's why I'm mentioning it. Like,
yeah,
this wasn't like that. So the Jets aren't up here saying we won the division today because they know there's 30 more points available. They're not out here celebrating and thinking these guys, we just dusted these guys. They're not going to be a contender to the throne. I mean, that is growth. That is maturity. But I also love the way that Scott Arniel isn't shying away from it either, right? That's good. It was an important game for the Jets, and they did get the job done. If they hadn't got the job done, based on what we've seen this year, you would expect them to respond just like what you just said, right? You would have expected them to respond on Sunday against Seattle, but now they are going to respond by playing Seattle with a 10-point cushion. Sean, I mean, we'll get into Hellebuck in a second, but it's Eric Comrie's turn. Eric Comrie should play, and I expect him to play Sunday against Seattle. Then it'll be back to Hellebuck, right? For for Vancouver, for Edmonton. And then we'll see about the game against Buffalo. But yeah, I mean, I do think this is growth. I mean, and as you touched on it, I mean, the top line, have they been operating at full capacity at 5-on-5 recently? No. Did that mean it was time to break up the line? Absolutely not. They answered the bell in what had been the biggest regular season game of the year. They got the job done. Gabe Vilardi got the job done. Mark Scheifele got the job done. Kyle Connor got the job done. And the defensemen that were on the ice against them also got the job done. I mean, it was impressive.
It was beyond impressive. I'm going to say this. Even before this happened, I was on CJOB and I said the Jets are going to win. Jets are going to win the division. The math, just like you don't. I know that the Dallas Stars had 2 games in hand, 2 games left against the Winnipeg Jets. When the Jets are as good as they are, it's so hard to beat a team clean. Just the way teams play each other tight. Jets beat them clean here tonight. It's hard to go in that other direction. What Dallas needed to do to finish first, the numbers tell us that's not going to happen. So I'm very confident that they finish in that first spot now, which is huge for their playoff chances. If they finish in that spot and are able to capitalize on that, I think getting a series underneath them is huge for that. But I would also say this, Ken, beyond anything, if you take a look at last season, yes, the Jets finished 4th, and yes, they won 8 straight going into the playoffs. They also lost 8 straight games before that, right? Their last 16 games was hot and cold, hot and cold. They were also a dominant team at the beginning of the season. And then, Ken, we talked about it endlessly on this podcast. After Christmas, they just could not seem to beat teams above the playoff line, but they were beaten up on teams below the playoff line. They were the schoolyard bullies. They'd go beat up on the weaklings, and then the tough kids would walk over, and then they would kind of crumble in that situation. There were a lot of signs, and yes, I know I got this wrong. I got it wrong last year. I thought the Jets were going to be just fine in that first round series. I thought they were going to lose in the second round after that, but I thought they'd be just fine against Colorado. I was wrong about that. So there was a level of belief that I had in the Jets last season. But I am telling you right now, put it this way, there are no more signs that the Winnipeg Jets could show me in the regular season that would not tell me they haven't learned the lessons from last year. They're not hot and cold like they were at times last year. They're not, only getting over a specific bar, but failing against other bars. At every turn, the Winnipeg Jets, a little while or a couple of games ago, they had lost 4 of 6 games. Looks like it was a cold stretch, right? They lost 3 straight, then they won 2, then they lost the next one after that. So they lost 4 of 6 games coming out of that 11-game win streak, right? That's a little bit hot and cold, but it's not crazy fall off the map hot and cold. And it's understandable in a league where they're kind of outside of Washington running away with it. It's just my way of saying, I've talked about this before, there's not really a lot left for me to learn in the regular season. Jets are going to push. There's going to be, something to keep them motivated here in the President's Trophy. And they are by no means hanging up the mission accomplished banner, like you said, saying that we're past the Dallas Stars. But if we were looking for signs that they had learned lessons that are going to help them in the playoffs this year, I feel like they've shown them all to us. And I just think that there should be a different level of faith in what the Winnipeg Jets would be capable of doing in the playoffs this year, regardless of whether or not they finish first and play the 8th seed or drop and play the 2-3 game, which I'm telling you is not going to happen. They're finishing in first. This, to me, is they've answered. If I had a checklist, if I need to see this from the Jets, I need to see this from the Jets to believe that they have turned the page and are going to be a different playoff team this year. They've done everything on my scorecard. Anything to say before
Well
we
said.
move on?
No, I mean, we talked about this a lot. We get it. I mean, with 2 flameouts in the first round in 5 games in very similar fashion, the Jets need to do it when the calendar flips to game 83 and beyond. We get it. That's true. We know that. We've been talking about it, but we're not going to hammer that over the head all year long. I'm with you. The Jets have been checking all the milepost boxes here to this point. They want to check the more important boxes once game 83 and beyond get there. But I'm with you. This year is different. It feels different around the team. We've talked all the time, Sean, and you were very vocal about this. When I would say, well, sometimes it takes teams longer to learn some of those heartache lessons and valuable lessons. Why hadn't they learned them until now? Well, it looks like they finally caught on, right? It took longer than some people expected, including us, but now it's going to be up to them to put those lessons into action. when the stakes get higher, because teams around them have found another level, right? The impressive part about the Jets is they've played at an elite level this year for almost the entire season. They need to crank it up even another notch when the playoffs come, because that's what those teams around them, like Vegas, like Colorado, like Dallas, like Edmonton last spring, like Florida, that's what they've been able to do. We're not saying abandon the game, change the game. That's not it either. This is the game, this is the template, but they can't, panic and forget what made them successful when things get hard, when you get punched in the face, which is what is going to happen eventually in the playoffs, whether it's in the first round, second, or beyond. So, no, I'm with you 100%. Couldn't agree more.
Good stuff. Okay, I want to let's just say this. I think it's paid off for the Winnipeg Jets to kind of stay on the track that they have. I think what we're seeing right now is the payoff of them very purposefully trying to learn lessons from last year. Like, this is a team that Josh Morrissey said, we're all going to go home and we're all going to try and figure this out, what's going on. I think they did that. I think they spent the summer doing that. I think it's one of the reasons they shot out of the gates the way that they did this season. And it's one of the reasons that for the most part, they really haven't, while no one was going to keep up a 16-1 pace throughout the year, the pace that they've kept up, even if you took every game after that and took their winning percentage and extended it through that 16-1 start, they would still be having a ridiculously stupid season right now. It is no doubt paid off the way the Winnipeg Jets have approached this, trying to learn the lessons that they've learned. And I think it's paying off. You're seeing it on the ice. And hey, if you're looking to pay off high interest credit cards or debt, we suggest you go talk to our friends at Cambrian Credit Union about their payoff loan. They can show you how taking out a loan to pay off your debt actually gets you debt free faster. And you can save thousands of dollars. Go to cambrian.mb.ca to book an appointment online. Ken, I can tell who the fans are in the chat, who are the ones who see a win like this and they're like, we're a wagon, we're going to win the cup now, because they're the ones who are the most butthurt at me right now for having said that and are taking lots of shots at me afterwards because they feel seen, but they didn't like that I saw that in them. That's too bad. We're moving on here, folks. Ken, I wanted to talk about the PK that they had against the Stars tonight. It reminded me of something. I'm going to ask if that power play, the Stars passing it around the perimeter the entire time and not being able to find anything, did that remind you of anything, or does it remind you of the same thing it reminded me of?
Well, you go, you dig into that. I mean, I'm just
Should we say it at the same time? Do you know where I'm going with this?
I do. Yes.
Let's say it at the same time.
You texted me.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, I didn't know. I forgot I texted you. It reminded me of the old Winnipeg Jets power play, the one that used to hold the puck in the opposition zone for 2 full minutes and just pass it around like that was the goal of everything, never get a shot on net and just move on. But I thought the Winnipeg Jets put the Dallas Stars in a situation where they were like, you're just not going to get a clean look. So what you have to do is you have to just shoot and get to the front of the net and get dirty, because we're not going to let you be pretty. And on a night like tonight, they found a team that was looking to be pretty and they were just grittier. And it's one of the reasons that power play, that PK was so impressive in that moment.
Yeah. And it's a combination of anticipation and positioning, Sean, right? And knowing when to close, when you can attack, but just not giving anything up, Sean. And you talked about it. There just was no lane available. And when there's no lane available, all that you saw was the frustration digging in for the Dallas Stars. You talked about it with Scott O'Neill, and you talked about it with Kyle Connor. Kyle Connor said it flat out. Yes, you could feel the sense of frustration from the Stars. And then it trickles into things like the power play, which should be something that could have got the Stars back into the game at the time. But again, and the Jets, they weren't gassed at the end of that shift. I think Adam Lowry ran somebody over at the end of that 2-minute shift. So I thought it was just incredibly impressive. And we know this. We've talked about this all year. The Jets power play, exceptional, top of the league for almost the entire season. Maybe even did stay above the whole time. And Sean, we can't forget, we know we've been talking about this all the time about the penalty kill needing to improve, but this just accentuates our point from earlier about Samberg. Sean, for the people that have forgotten, the Jets were a top 10 and I think a top 5 penalty kill before Samberg got hurt and broke his foot after the slap shot he took off the foot from Steven Stamkos. So this shouldn't come as a surprise, especially not after getting Tanev in there and Schenn in there, that they're doing a better job on the PK. Sometimes it takes time. They're a little bit more aggressive. Power kill that Dean Chenault has brought with them from Toronto and Carolina. They're starting to get more and more in sync. They've switched the personnel a little bit, and some through necessity, some through trade, some through trial and error. But right now, those guys are really rolling, and it's been very impressive to see for sure.
Just before we move on here, Ken, there's a question here. Terex12 says, hey, does anyone know a good realtor? I was wondering if you had any suggestions, Ken.
I do, and I actually saw Sweet Lou this week, Sean. If you need a realtor, you need someone to let you know what the housing market is looking like right now, contact our main man, Lou Ferlin at Rolla Page Dynamic Realty, 204-791-9971, or at the office, 204-989-5000. His email is lou@louferlin.ca. That's LOU@LOUFURLAN.ca. Lou Ferlin, excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of the community, including this podcast. Had a chance to speak with Sweet Lou this week. He's doing great, Sean, enjoying the season very much, and fired up. This is the time of year. Springtime is when people like to buy and sell. So if you're one of those people that is looking to do either one of those things, get in touch with Lou Ferlin.
Well, now that Sweet Lou, the true star of the show, is out of the way, I feel like I can flash the peacock feathers a little bit here as Monster Nut says, headband, please. So you know what that means, folks. Maybe a little late, but it's time to turn this into
Never too late.
Sean's headband version of the Kenny and Renny show. Here we go. Let's do the awards, Ken. We can chat about something if we get down to it after that. But what do you got for the Johnston Group got you covered play of the game?
Yeah, I think we just talked about it. I think that penalty kill was just exceptional from the Jets. There was no singular moment in it, but I just felt that the penalty kill as a whole just sort of stymied the Stars and was a great example of the frustration that they were able to sort of inflict upon their opponent. And as you mentioned, it kind of got to the point where they were so frustrated that they spent almost the entire 2 minutes looking for a perfect play that just wasn't ever going to be there. So, more of a broad strokes type of situation rather than a singular moment in this one for me.
Yeah, it's strange because there didn't seem to be anything that stuck out. And to be honest, Ken, the Johnston Group got you covered play of the game is basically that, that guy that goes above and beyond and makes that extra special play to shut something down. It felt like the Jets were so airtight tonight that they didn't really need to have a scenario in which they needed to do that, right? You didn't, I don't know, I think Ken just got bit by a coyote on his leg or something like that, or has a cramp happening or something like that. Not too much golf, not enough water on the course today. But I agree with you 100%. On a day where there's just not really something that stands out as a single effort, it's because the group itself had itself covered, and no better example of that than the PK. So I'm with you on the PK being the Johnston Group. We've got you covered play of the game, Ken. And hey, do you run a small business in Canada? Look to Canada's #1 employee benefits plan, Chambers Plan, to give you a competitive edge. Chambers Plan is the simple, stable, smart choice for over 30,000 businesses countrywide. Visit chamberplan.ca to learn more. And that brings us, Ken, to your hashtag the keg save of the game. What do you got?
Yeah, this is a toughie too, quite frankly. But honestly, I texted you my answer at the end of the second period, and it didn't look like this is another classic Hellebuck, big and boring. And Matt Duchene goes for a sneak attack with about 8 seconds left in the period. And I'm with Matt Duchene. I know why he shot. It looked for a second like Connor Hellebuck was cheating for the pass. and it was a sharp angle play, and Duchesne actually got pretty good wood on it. It looked like it was maybe labeled for the top side on the blocker, and Hellbuck just kind of shimmied his shoulder over and made the save. And again, on TV it doesn't look like much, and I get it. Connor Hellbuck's a big guy, 6'4", covers a lot of net. But I thought that was an important save because the Jets were kind of in complete control, and if you kind of let in a little bit of a softy late in the period, you give the opposition life and all of those things. I mean, honorable mention, I think, some folks mentioned in the chat room, there was that save on Jamie Benn that looked kind of awkward, kind of dove out. And I sent you one earlier in the game where, in a rare moment, Hellbuck was kind of swimming a little bit and kind of ended up like with his head forward and his blocker kind of poking the puck. And I know Harley didn't get a whole lot on it, but I'm going to go with the Matt Duchesne save on a night where, I mean, Hellbuck was just solid, but he didn't have to be spectacular.
You just basically explained the one, and it's funny because that was the original one you sent to me when he was out of his net, and then he gets back in. Harley doesn't get anything off it. He eventually makes the save. The puck is it hits one of the Jets' sticks, so it gets to Hellbuck's slow. By the time he's back in the net, it's nothing spectacular that he does there. But what I thought was spectacular is he was out of his net and back in it really, really quick. What it reminded me of is like the kind of speed at which Josh Morrissey recovers. One of the reasons Josh Morrissey is able to be as aggressive as he is when he misses on his aggression. He can usually make up for it by getting back into place. He can just beat the guy back to the spot because he's such a great skater and because he moves so well and transitions so well. This was one of the things I was thinking with Connor Hellbuck is yes, and Roy Mack said it here tonight. Helly was out of the net a lot tonight, laugh out loud. He was, it's true. There was a time Jamie Benn lifted his stick and threw it out front. There was just nobody home. That could have been, it could have been a night where things went in a different direction. But I'll say this, Connor Hellbuck not only plays the puck really, really well, like to be honest, Ken, I'll say he's become one of the elite puck playing goaltenders in the league after starting out as being a complete and total liability like that. But the one thing is, as a battler, he usually gets back into spots pretty quickly. And while that puck wasn't coming at speed, it came and he was there. And I think that's all that matters. So for me, that is the hashtag keg save of the game. It doesn't matter what we think, though. Share with us your hashtag the keg save of the game. You're automatically entered to win a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. And now I do have a making up to do here. I've already talked about this with the winner, a previous winner, Donna Mason. People may have noticed I called out Donna Mason as the hashtag the keg save of the game winner for 2 shows in a row because I actually messed up. I let Donna know that. She got a hold of me. She's still going to get her $50 gift certificate, but she understood that I accidentally read her name twice over. So I have a retroactive winner as Papa T. Papa T, you won actually from last show. So what I need you to do is to direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name, send me an email, and I will have the fine folks at the keg send you a voucher for a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. And that brings us to the winner from this show. And I got to say something here. Scardy seems to think that T. Will is living rent-free in Rennie's head. He may be, but not for the reasons you're thinking, Scardy. Scardy would like to think that T. Will is owning Rennie here for whatever strange reason is worming its way through Scardy's brain here. But I'll say this. It's because T. Will is the winner from the last show of the hashtag keg save of the game. You know how
way to go, T. Will.
Listen, I was going to say, no way. Ken talked me into handing it out. And I'll say, I thought I had a good argument. T. Will's pick for the hashtag save of the game wasn't even from the Jets game. It was from a different game. I thought it was a party foul, but you know what?
Oh, don't be pulling me into this, buddy.
He hashtagged the keg save of the game. That's the rules. He's in there. So maybe this is my way of trying to get you, I'm trying to get a heel turn for T. Will here. He's stealing the award away from you. And he's not even giving the award to someone in the Jets game. How's that work? Well, it works because he hashtagged the keg that and that's all it takes. And that's why T Will is the winner of the hashtag save of the game from the last game. You know what to do, Terwilliger. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Give me your full Terwilliger name and your Terwilliger email, and I will have the fine folks at the Keg send you a voucher for a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine Keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. Ken, before we go, I just wanted to say something quick, and if you have anything that you want to drop in as well, I wanted to say it wasn't a night that the second line really got on the board, but I texted you at one point early in the game when the Jets were really rolling, and they just it wasn't early in the game. I think it was in the second period, or was it in the first period?
Can't remember. Late first.
Regardless, there's a play where the Jets are kind of giving that second line is kind of giving the Stars fits, and it ends with Ottinger making a save, but he makes a save with Cole Perfetti right in his kitchen, a defenseman on him. Cole beats him to the spot, gets in his eyes, tries to tip it. It doesn't work out, but it was just another example to me, Ken, of in a game where it's hardest, right? Everyone knows my take on Cole from earlier on. He was a guy who showed up when the game on the scoreboard when the games were the easiest because he wasn't willing to do the hard things needed to do in hard games. This was a game. It was a hard game, and Cole was out there doing the hard things. Doesn't always end up in being on the scoreboard, but this is my way of saying I'm not just hawking for points. I'm not saying this has got to happen. There's a right way to play the game, and that's what I used to say. When Cole got points in easy games, but wasn't getting points in hard games because I didn't think he was doing the things he needed to do to succeed at tough times, the points weren't enough for me. But it's the same. It's the same in the opposite direction. Cole didn't get any points tonight. I thought he was playing the game the right way. I thought it was another example of why he's been so successful lately. He doesn't need to be on the scoreboard every night, but if he's playing the game the right way, he's going to end up making a difference in games like that. And I just thought this was an extension. No one's going to be talking about Cole Perfetti typically when he doesn't get points, but they should be talking about him because it was another right game by Cole Perfetti.
Yeah, a great assessment there. And again, Cole has said this all year long, but he's backed it up with his play. His actions have been aligned with his words. And to me, that's important. And yes, he's still in the complimentary point producer mode for right now, but he is on the verge of becoming a primary point producer. And, some of that will come when his first power play minutes are going to be elevated down the road at some point, depending on how things all shake down in free agency. But yeah, I think that his willingness to go to the hard areas has been very evident for a couple, I'd even say it's more than weeks. It's kind of months now. And he needed to get it turned around and get it going, and he has done that. And that's that's a massive development for the Jets and for him personally. Because Sean, last year at this time, Cole was going through the toughest part of the stretch, right? Getting healthy scratched as a first-round draft pick, as a guy who is, he's worked for everything, but he hadn't dealt with that type of adversity in his career, on the way up. And I'm incredibly impressed by his ability to find that other level. It's a testament to the hard work he's put in over the last 2 off seasons, and his ability to have that maturity and not beat himself up as much as he did previously has been absolutely massive in terms of this step forward. He's a guy that's very dialed. He loves the game, but he had that, that almost that Mr. Serious type of look, and he looks like he's just enjoying the game more, Sean. The game's a lot more fun when you're, able to soak it in, right? I get having a high standard and being, pushing yourself to be the best. But Cole's really done a great job of, enjoying the game and doing the hard things that make the game fun.
The one other thing that we haven't talked about enough on the show and we don't have time to do, but Tishu nails it here. Barron was wonderful tonight.
Yep.
Boy, oh boy, switching him to center. Who saw this coming? Someone had said that, hey, have the coaches known he could play center this whole time? This has not failed the Winnipeg Jets here. And all of a sudden you're talking about center depth. You've got David Gustafsson and Rasmus Kupari, who are two extremely effective grinding players who play the Jet system well, who can't even crack the lineup right now. And now you've added Morgan Barron into that. Now I know, and that, I still think, listen, we're all going to be saying, yeah, see, we told you. So everyone's going to be saying that if the Jets go into the playoffs and somehow they just don't get enough scoring and Nemestikov isn't able to produce, him being the 2C is not what you look around the league and say there's an ideal 2C, but Mark Scheifele is playing as an ideal 1C. You've got an ideal 3C with Adam Lowry, and you've got like 3 ideal 4Cs just waiting to go. The depth that the Winnipeg Jets have created with Barron now moving there is just absolutely ridiculous, and good on him for stepping into that role and just absolutely not missing a beat. Anything to say before we go, Ken?
Yeah, just quickly. I mean, we went through a whole hour and 5 minutes without talking about one of the prettiest goals of the game, the other goal by Connor, the given goal with Josh Morrissey, which was going to be my original lamplighter choice until I fumbled my words out of the gate. But impressive job there. And I don't want to talk about this right now. We'll talk about it more when we have time. But this is something that resonates with me. And we can check the receipts going back to the day Scott Arniel was hired. BD Longshot saying, funny how
you want to throw it up there?
Funny how people are not questioning the hiring of Scott Arniel anymore. That whole, that ridiculous narrative that the Jets and True North only hired Scott Arniel because they know Scott Arniel. I mean, that is partially true. They know Scott Arniel and they knew how smart he was, which is why they gave him the job. They didn't give him the job just because he worked in the organization in the minors. And this is a guy that's a legit Jack Adams candidate. And I'm kind of annoyed that, pundits around the league keep finding excuses to have other people ahead of Scott Arniel in the race, whether that's teams that are unlikely to be in the playoffs. Like Scott Arniel as a first-year head coach has the team in a position to win the President's Trophy. I mean, Spencer Carberry's doing an awesome job, but Scott Arniel, I don't think, is getting enough credit around the league. And his entire coaching staff has done a fantastic job. And that goes right from the video coaches to the goalie coach to the 3 assistants. I think that the Jets coaching staff has done, a remarkable job, and they deserve a lot more credit than they're getting for it around the league.
Undeniably, not getting enough credit. Not enough people are talking about what he's done with this team, the steps that they've taken. Hey, it is not easy to take a really good team, switch out a coach, and make them even better. It's not easy to do that. Coaches that have done that before are good coaches. Like you're talking about Barry Trotz rolling into Washington, right? And taking a team that, couldn't really figure things out and then just taking them to another level, right? I get the whole Jack Adams thing. The Jack Adams thing is the most improved team award. That's what it is, right? Like, so the people who get upset about those kind of things, I get it. You should be, because the letter of it's the same people who get upset about, like, a couple years ago when Carlson won the Norris Trophy, right? Because Carlson wasn't much of a defenseman, right? He just went out and got a lot of points. He wasn't much of a defenseman. So people get really angered by that, and I understand why they get angry. To me, I just get it. Spencer Carberry took an 8th place team and turned them into a 1st place team that is 2 points behind the Winnipeg Jets right now, right? And whereas the Winnipeg Jets were a 4th place team that needed to lose 8 straight games in their last 16 games to fall out of potentially winning the President's Trophy. So a lot of people see what Scott Arniel is doing as just holding court. If you're a Jets fan, or if you're like us and you watch here, you are seeing the improvements being made. But let's be honest, I'm not an expert on the Carolina Hurricanes. I'm not an expert on the Seattle Kraken, right? I dig in and watch the Winnipeg Jets. The vast majority of people who cover this game and vote on those awards are more involved with what's going on with them, and they can't really pick up the intricacies of what's been special about Scott Arniel's season. So what they do is they take a look at stuff that's very visible from the outside, and what's very visible is Spencer Carberry is taking a team from here to here. Yep. what's his name? Why am I
Dean
missing his
Evison.
name? Dean Evison in Columbus took a team that everyone expected to fall apart this year with that tragic loss and made them a way better team, a really good team. So people see that jump, the jump that, I mean, the Jets were already close to the ceiling. So in order for them to reach the ceiling, Scarlett O'Neal didn't have to go that much higher. But Ken, you know it. I know it. The fan base knows it. The organization knows it. What he's done with this team this year is special. You cannot say that his credit is just slightly building on what Bones did in the time he was here. His credit deserves is taking the work that Bones did and refining it to a place that it hasn't, I don't believe, been close to in the last number of years. That's my take on the whole thing. And our last take. Ken, anything to say before we go?
No, you nailed it. And sorry, I didn't mean to open the can of worms late, but again, we talked about this when the Scott O'Neill was hired. And for the folks that are new in the chat, and we would suggest you go back onto our YouTube channel and check out our interview with Scott O'Neill from the day he was hired. I think it'd be worth your time.
Oh, that would be a good one. That hey, great interview. A great real introduction to him. I thought he did great in that. Okay, that's it, Ken. Great job. Awesome job by the chat as usual. Over 500 people in. It's midnight. Well done, everybody. We really appreciate you. We'll never stop appreciating you, and we hope you won't stop appreciating us because we grind to make sure that we give you what we can. Sometimes it's a vacation effort, if you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes it's just your regular, always on the point take of it. That's just how this goes. But I will tell you this: if you appreciate it and you want to see it continue, the best way to do that is to appreciate our sponsors, to fight to keep the conversation going in this space. For us, that's Vittorio Rossi, Pristine Roofing, Cambrian Credit Union, Sweet Lou Furlan, Flame and Comfort, the Kenny and Renny OGs and the Johnston Group, the Keg, and of course TransCanada Brewing Company. Thank you to them. Thank you to all of you. Enjoy your weekend, everybody, and we will reconvene and do this all over again on Sunday. Correct, Ken?
Yes, sir. Yes, Seattle Kraken.
Talk to you later, folks. Bye-bye.